Hey, and good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Coffee Table Talks. Here with me, Rachel Arnold, the Human API with SecureNation, and Will McCullen from the IT Center of Excellence at PIMA Community College. Today, our special guest is going to be Rob Meekins. Thank you for joining us, Rob. Digital forensics experts in his own right with Kivu Consulting, which is a partnership here that we really enjoy and have really had fun doing here between SecureNation and Kivu. So I see we've got some folks joining in from different places. Will's already testing out the YouTube. Thanks, Will. You the best. You the best. I know we had a lot of people kind of hanging out this morning and waiting on the LinkedIn. I think the chat will be catching up shortly because there's like a whole bunch of hey, hi, happy Friday. Like it's a lot. It's a lot. Let's see, how far up is this? This is going to be, wow, I hope that doesn't all hit at once. Anywho, hi, good morning. We see you, Jonathan, and we see you, Jason. He says, never mind, I see it. He found us.
Hey, Brad, how's it going?
We're so excited. So I have been stoked to have this conversation around digital forensics with a digital forensics expert for a while, just because, I mean, really, you get to, you're like I don't know, some sort of crazy, awesome CSI pseudo, right? Like you're like a detective, right? From all the old shows, but you do it in this digital virtual realm.
We do the computers, see?
Yeah, that is pretty awesome. So yeah. My first question is, how on earth did you get started doing this?
Well, that's a pretty good story. I spent 20 years in the Air Force, and at about the 5-year mark, I became a special agent for the Air Force Office of Special Investigations. I investigated just about any type of crime there's ever been. I'm going to tell you, from fraud to, really and truly murder investigations, even espionage, worked on espionage investigations. So really, a varied career. And after a few years of that, I'm going to be honest, I gave it the thought, do I want to be a cop after I get out of the Air Force, or do I want to do something more cool? So I crossed over as a computer crimes investigator for the Air Force, probably in the late 90s. So I've been doing this a while. Really cool working for the Air Force, doing computer crimes, basically people hacking into the Air Force. I actually, also worked with the Air Force Space Command NOSC, integrating cyber intelligence along with the NOSC and developing threat intel for, threat actors, types of groups hitting the Air Force sites and things like that. So that's really how I got involved with computer crimes, and, late 90s, never looked back. Spent the rest of my time with the Air Force doing computer crimes. After that, Department of Interior Inspector General. I worked for their computer crimes unit, where I kind of specialized doing computer crimes in the oil and gas industry. One of the coolest things I have ever done in my life is, do you remember when the Deepwater Horizon, the oil rig blew up?
Yeah.
I actually got to go out and spend 10 days on the replacement oil rig, working with an FBI collections team. As they pulled up, things, we were doing some digital forensics and that with the cameras. So really cool. Enjoyed that. That was a once in a lifetime type of thing.
Cool.
Yeah. So, after spending 5 years with the Department of Interior, I had spent my whole life doing government work. So I kind of moved over into the private sector. Worked for a couple different companies for about 3 or 4 years. Also specialized in doing PCI investigations. That's basically payment card investigations. When people would hack and steal the credit cards, we kind of did the investigations on behalf of all the card brands like MasterCard, Visa, Amex. So, been doing this for a little while, different types of investigations. Really cool. Kind of specialized now in doing a lot of ransomware attacks, things like that. So, sorry to be so long-winded. So.
No, you're fine.
Awesome.
You're absolutely fine. So, what are a couple of I don't know what you're allowed to talk about. Dang it.
Well, so we really do a varied amount of investigations. Like I said, we do a lot of ransomware. I've worked on ransomware investigations with companies that are global, with 100,000 endpoints throughout the globe, various countries. Working on that. We work with them to develop. I'm the old law enforcement guy. I look for the who, what, where, when, why, and how.
Yeah.
I want to know all those details in regards to, how did the threat actor get in? What did he, exploit? Things like that.
So that's what I want to ask is typically, how do they get in? What's like the biggest, I mean, I know there's different ways, but.
Yeah. One of the most common ways, it's really the human factor. It's phishing emails with an individual within the network, clicking on the bad link, losing their credentials. We see the bad guy get in, make his way to the domain controller where they essentially mimikatz and they develop, harvesting credentials. And at that point, it's over. The client network is just totally toast at that point. Honestly, points like that, clients really have to rebuild new domains. It's quite extensive and it can cause a tremendous amount of damage to a client.
So,
wow.
So we were talking earlier, and it's kind of good to share with folks the major motivations for this. And do you see any large trends on the forces that are doing the ransomware and some of their overall motivations?
Well, for ransomware threat actors, quite honestly, it's money. I mean, that's the true motivation. It's extortion. That's really all it is. They get in. What we normally see with most groups is once they exfiltrate or once they get into a network, they'll do reconnaissance, looking for the various file servers, what network shares are there. A lot of times we see them exfiltrate data, and as a last means, then they encrypt the network. So at that point, they really got you a couple different ways. We got your data encrypted. You don't have access to it. They get rid. They either encrypt the backups or get rid of them. So that's a major problem for companies. I see also is backups. A lot of times the backups are online. They make the mistake where a bad guy getting in can even gain access to the backup. So absolutely big problem there. But really the threat actor, they got your data encrypted, and they also has exfiltrated your data. So, you're not only paying money to get the decryption keys to get your data, but you're also a lot of times paying money on the basis that the threat actor will promise not to post your data. So, it's really a twofold thing. But honestly, for threat actors, the motivation, it's money.
Yeah, which leads me to question why people think that, why do you think that working with them, they're gonna honor anything that they tell you? I never got that. You think just because when someone I think it's because they think if somebody gives them money in exchange for something, they're going to honor it, right? So they put the same trust that they would hope other people put on them on the criminals themselves. Not true. So they're gonna they're gonna take your money, and then they're still gonna sell you stuff because there's more money, and the key motivator is money.
Yeah. A lot of times with threat actors, the individual threat actor that's gaining access to your network, a lot of times is not the same threat actor that originally determined what your vulnerability, your exploit is. So a lot of times we see threat actors will, exploit a network and then sell that access to different ransomware actors. Ransomware has actually become a service now. It's ransomware as a service, RAAS. And we've seen that quite a bit. We're seeing them work in conjunction now, in coordination with other ransomware actors. It's really become a business. We've seen them have help desks, believe it or not, where we've seen clients be able to call a help desk, and the help desk will walk them through how to do various things. Contact the threat actor. It's crazy to see that type of sophistication now.
Yeah, I mean, I use it in our classes. There's on YouTube one with, I think it's Philadelphia ransomware, right? And one of the cool things that they go to that commercial is that it's ADA compliant, right? When you're getting to the point where your ransomware is ADA compliant, it's like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Awesome.
But Rachel, I don't think I answered your question. Paying a threat actor is really it's a touchy thing, because you're really trusting a criminal to honor their word. I mean, the criminal's already broke into your network, stole your data. So you're really putting your trust into a criminal. But believe it or not, some of them actually hold to what they say in regards to not posting it on their shame pages. Okay.
Well, yeah, because they want more people to pay them.
Exactly. But honestly, we have seen some in the past. This is crazy. I've actually seen it where a ransomware, the client paid the extortion, paid the ransom, and probably 6 months goes by, and then the ransomware threat actor actually posted the data. And the client went back to him and it's like, we paid the ransom. And believe it or not, the threat actor was like, "Oh, sorry, we forgot you paid for it. Our mistake."
It was like customer service reps. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's crazy. It really is.
So Eric Rosenberg adds a great question. What are your thoughts about U.S. Treasury Department sanctions against? I was looking into this week earlier too, against crypto exchange named SUEX. Is it SUEX or Sue? It's Sue, isn't it? For allegations of facilitating transactions for ransomware operators based in Russia. Will this help? I guess he's asking if the sanctions against crypto exchange type companies like this one, right?
Yeah.
Is
It also goes along with some of the laws coming up too.
Yeah. The actions being taken by the government, in my opinion, is absolutely a positive step forward. We have seen a decrease in the amount of ransomware attacks lately.
That's awesome.
Now, this is totally my opinion, okay? Not speaking on behalf of the government, but this is Rob Meekins' opinion. I think we're seeing a slowdown now, because I think the threat actors are actually now thinking about what's the best way to go, because we're actually seeing more threat actors being associated with terrorist groups, and that's not something they take lightly and they want to have happen. We've seen ransomware payments, following the chain. We've seen that chain go to the ransomware threat actor and then make its way to the terrorist groups. See, the real catch-22 is, by that happening, now that goes back to the original company in the U.S. that was paying the ransom. So that, it's really becoming a hard business now to be and counter extortion and pay those ransoms on behalf of clients, because, we're seeing that money make its way to terrorist groups. And that's something that falls back on the original company in the U.S. for paying the ransom. So it's really becoming touchy.
Yeah, well, also, right, once you hit the terrorist flag, that opens up government options like a Christmas tree, right? So
Yeah, absolutely.
that whole path then lights up for things that the United States can do,
Yeah.
where they normally couldn't. Correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, to me, that's what the slowdown is right now, in my opinion. They're trying to figure out the best way to go. I mean, there's talk about whether or not cryptocurrency will even be allowed to pay ransoms anymore. Doing away with that. So, in my opinion, something will evolve. I'm just not sure what at this point.
Well, yeah, and also with China making its thing against cryptocurrency, that's going to at least cause a speed bump.
Yeah.
Probably won't do much, but at least a hiccup.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I think, ransomware threat actors, they're not dumb. I mean, they're smart. So I think they're really taking a look at how they're going to operate. We haven't seen it stop, but I think we have seen it slow down. I think it's just, figuring out what's the best way to go forward.
What?
Oh, Aaron had a good comment. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
To add. Sorry. Yeah, Aaron Franks, ransomware will be number one attack vector on critical infrastructure. The dilemma is how far do these malicious actors want to test the government? President is focused on this, as we can see with ZT's strategy and policy coming out. Thank you, Aaron.
Yeah, and I think you've already seen some of that with the pipeline. The pipeline being hit. I think we saw how the government really played a big factor in that, and even actually recovered most of the funds that were paid. We've seen a lot of hospitals being hit. That, as bad as it is, in my opinion, leave the hospitals alone. But no, we've seen hospitals hit. We're seeing more infrastructure type attacks, definitely.
And with more infrastructure type thing, or do you see any? I always think of this as along the lines of a opportunity for our adversaries and things like that to either interrupt the economy or hit the infrastructure. Do you see any large forces along those lines, specifically targeted to some of those aims, or I think besides just making money?
That's hard. I'm not sure I can really answer that. I definitely think that's a possibility, but I don't. Yeah, I'll pass on that one.
Not enough to make a dent.
Yeah.
So
Click on the radar.
So once ransomware, an organization is stricken down with some ransomware, okay, and whether they pay the ransom for decryption or restore from backups, how long is kind of the medium average downtime? Let's say, I don't know, 100,000 employees.
We've seen the downtime for weeks. But a lot of times what we'll see is companies will get the initial infrastructure for their operations, whether it be like a manufacturing floor, things like that. They will get that back up in a matter of a day or two. But we see for the general network, it can take weeks.
That's awful. So general network, what does that usually affect? What type of
the corporate networks, basically? The critical infrastructure, meaning maybe the systems on the floor running the individual manufacturing equipment net. We've seen that back up in a day or two. I mean, that's the most critical. But as far as the corporate network, it can take weeks. I mean, part of the problem is, you mentioned whether we restore from backups. I've seen a lot of companies go, we were attacked Thursday afternoon at noon. I got a backup from Wednesday. My problem is at this point, you don't know how long the threat actor's been in your network.
It's true.
So that's really a dangerous gamble to take at that point. A lot of times I've seen companies with really no more backups going back more than a week generally. The problem also is, a lot of corporations, the backups are online, and we see those backups being encrypted, and they even lose those. So generally at that point, we work, we actually have in-house a recovery service that can go on site and work with these clients and actually help them, restore the network, whether it's, going back to older backups or actually creating a whole new build. We see new domains being created and stood up. The real problem is, finding out what that initial vulnerability was, what was that exploit that was exploited and allowed the threat actor in. Because if you restore from a week ago, that vulnerability may still be there.
Probably is.
Yeah.
And because it's big business, I would assume that a lot of those are probably gearing to make sure that they get into the long-term backup strategies. I mean, isn't that the kind of a natural thing to do?
Yeah, I mean, and also you need to keep them offline, or at least firewalled off where the admin username and password ain't going to allow them in. So, that's a problem that most companies have.
So,
I like Terry's point here. Something that Terry had heard from a different podcast was that government should institute some kind of a nationwide cybersecurity defense to protect the U.S., like as in the private institutions and companies as well, because as a comparison, the government wouldn't expect, it didn't show the whole thing, the businesses to protect themselves from physical invasion or attacks. So why should cyber attacks be any different?
Yeah, and you know what? To some degree, they're starting that. InfraGard was actually designed to merge the public and private sector. They really were, especially for information sharing.
I am a member, by the way. You guys should.
I'm a member as well.
High five.
So I'll tell you also, the government was also standing up essentially a NOSC in Colorado Springs, actually, to work with private companies. So, they are starting to take more action to do that. Now, it's pretty slow, to be very honest, and it's probably going to take a while. And also, you have to look at, these private companies, do they want to participate? It takes money, takes bodies, and that's a question that, only a company can decide.
And, that's a big reason why, like the gentleman I mentioned to you before we went live, Chris Wallace. What Brits? Oh, yeah, I'll get to that one. Sorry, Will. Anyway, Chris Wallace with the Carolina Cyber Center. Near-ish. I was hoping it was going to be nearer, but it's like 6 hours from where you are. Anywho, they have something very interesting in their model where they are offering like basically MSP, but like co-managed SOC or completely managed SOC options for smaller and medium businesses in North Carolina. And it's student run. So not only are they helping the smaller and medium businesses by enabling them with a SOC team that is at a very, very reasonably low cost, okay, because it's also supported by some tax dollars in one way or another. Not sure how all that's done, but whatever. It's real cheap, okay? It also gives North Carolina cybersecurity students the opportunity to gain some experience in a SOC, working actual, real man hours, woman hours, whatever, hours, doing stuff. Guess what Will in PIMA Community College also does? Right? That's where we're headed, which is so cool because, smaller groups like that can really organize themselves faster than, our government has a lot of red tape, right? And it's so that they can't suddenly make decisions and the rest of us go, wait, what's happening? But where's Britt's comment, Will? I'm trying to look. I see Williams was my next one here. Will, do you see any countries or entities with leapfrog technology getting ahead of the threats? As with cell phones, some countries sidestepped copper/wire and went right to sell whatever. They got higher end stuff, right? I've heard about leapfrogging technology. Anyway, do you see any countries or entities with leapfrog technology getting ahead of Are they getting ahead of threats? Is anybody doing better than us, and why? There you go.
Yeah, that's really hard to say. I mean, yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't know that one.
No worries, I don't either.
Yeah, I don't know.
Britt Adams' question down there was, until corporate executives start facing penalties or criminal charges for their organizations, do you think that will need to come into play to really motivate, or do you think that's a good motivator?
Yeah, that's a really hard one. I mean, is it really criminal for your? I mean, you think about it. A lot of these attacks can also originate through phishing attempts. It's that human factor. So by an individual succumbing to that, should that executive be charged criminally based on a company employee doing something stupid? I'm not a fan of that, honestly.
Right. And a lot of that probably depends upon how negligent the company was.
Yeah.
And I bet in your business, you find a lot of things that really should have been done. How about, do you come across ones that you just kind of look at and go, really, people?
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of the problems actually, a lot of it really stems back to how much capital does the individual company have to invest in corporate security. Now, all of us here, that's a priority, right? That's got to be done. But a lot of companies don't have the capital to do it. They'll institute a firewall. They'll hire one IT guy and trust that everything is safe and secure at that point. Everybody here knows that that's not the case. But, a lot of companies just don't have that capital.
Yeah, and you talked earlier before we got going about logging.
Yeah. A lot of times, one of the biggest things we see is, logs are a tremendous asset for information. One of the big problems we see is the lack of logging by companies. Companies ask me, how long should I log? Well, I think you should, for the PCI community, you're required to log 1 year with 3 months being immediately accessible. Okay. That's pretty extensive, honestly. That's a lot of logs. But a lot of companies, what we see is, the firewall is rolling over the logs, and the only logs are on the firewall, and it's rolling over, and we'll see logs going back no more than 6, 8, 12 hours. We see a lot of times firewalls are tremendously outdated. Just because you get a firewall, it's got to be kept up to date. We've seen certain firewall brands being exploited by threat actors. They VPN right into the firewall. And once that happens, it's game over. Logging is a tremendous asset companies need to do. They need to push them off to like a syslog where the bad guy doesn't have access.
Helpful.
Yeah.
It's always the simple stuff, right?
Yeah. Honestly, for us here, it's common sense and it's knowledge. But for individual companies, they're trying to sell a product or sell a service, and they're not focusing on the security aspect. Which they hire an IT guy. A lot of times, the IT guy they hire is not fully versed in security as well. He's an admin that knows how to stand up a workstation, and that's it.
Yeah, that's very true. It's important to empower your IT people, guys.
Yeah.
We're going to call it that. Also, fair wages. That's important. I was discussing that with somebody yesterday. We were talking about how remote work has opened up a new labor pool for a lot of companies that were traditionally doing just in their immediate area. And, a company that may be based in a high dollar section of the country, right? Say, I don't know, San Francisco. everybody, San Francisco, can hire somebody, say, I don't know, from South Louisiana. We're real cheap around here. Wink, wink. Okay. At a huge just difference between, just because of the living wage. There are people now, like, they can open it up to the whole thing, and it can reduce some costs there, which, I mean, you should still pay, because think about it, they can get another job from somebody else in San Francisco that may be willing to pay more. But really value your security team and those people that are interested in helping making your organization stronger is really, really key to empowering your cybersecurity program. You know, if somebody says, "Hey, let's check out maybe some I don't know, multi-factor authentication options," you should entertain that. 110%. Yes,
Absolutely.
whatever is doing, right? Because that's going to really help, especially if your employees are right. The way the attackers are getting in, as you mentioned, Rob, through phishing or smishing, right? Those are also, phishing is not just in your email nowadays, guys.
Yep.
As a matter of fact, I had the first time. I told Will this yesterday, the first time it happened. So for everyone listening, LinkedIn is great for collaboration and doing stuff. And I really like how you aren't necessarily able to easily access direct messaging unless you're connected to that individual, right? There's a workaround that I had somebody on a marketing team that was not very smart try to get to. And they went through the list of attendees and messaged them a link to some con, hey, here's a link to educational resources. There's going to be great talks. You should do it. I did it. Look how fun it is. Right. Which is fine. I am so excited when people share resources. Do not get me wrong. Okay. If it's a con or whatever it is, especially conferences, virtual, and especially if it's free, I really enjoy helping to spread the word on those things. That's great. My problem is you sent a link to everybody on my attendees list, whether they were connected to you or not. It had nothing to do with our topic of discussion today. It had nothing to do with Rob or Will or Rachel. Okay. And then you didn't ask my permission, and you tried to data scrape my entire list of attendees to the coffee table talks. This is a safe place. Don't screw up my safe place. I'm coming for you. Okay. This is my bubble. Leave my bubble alone. You got kicked. I love you very much. You're welcome to come back when you try not to use it as a marketing tool. Okay. Please don't do that again. I'm going to shut your stuff down. Okay. Anyway, moving on. Happy, friendly Rachel time.
Rachel has friends.
I just want to make that real clear for anybody else. Now, and look, as a cybersecurity services and platforms reseller that's completely vendor agnostic, I have a lot of friends that are on the vendor side. We get it. I get it. I am not saying that vendors are all bad people. They're just like in the trenches side of the fence. There are cybersecurity people that kind of suck. There are marketing and sales people on the other side that suck too, right? We're all humans. We can be good or bad. Doesn't matter where we work. The vendors that usually come and hang out with me are super awesome, nice people, and they want to contribute and they want to help and they want to answer questions. Look at Rob. Rob's company offers some really fantastic services from some really talented folks in the industry. They're amazing. Rob just wants to help. He doesn't want to sell you stuff or scrape your data or collect anything or resell it or anything else. Okay. That's why Rob gets to hang out. It's because we love Rob. You're so awesome for hanging out with us today. And I had to interrupt for a second because that burned me up yesterday. You have no idea. There was a chat between me and Miss Dima, who is like, I've taken her under my wing a little bit. I really like her. Where's Dima? Dima, say hi to everybody if you're still on the LinkedIn chat. And she was the one. And then she, in her, I want to share resources. She sent the link to me and it had already started. See what I'm saying? there are other ways that people can do that. And if you don't know how to check and kind of validate and vet those links out a little bit, that's how your company is getting phished and schmished and your ransomware is getting in. Okay. Because they want to help, right? We want to help people. And having a good education and awareness type thing. I mean, we're getting ready to walk into Cybersecurity Awareness Month, right? Everybody's booked through October. Everything. And turning on, multi-factor authentication, that's another key helpful thing. If your folks click on a link and they enter in their credentials because they believed whatever the message was legit, it's a lot harder for a threat actor to also crack their multi-factor. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying it's a lot harder.
Yeah, and to be honest, I'm going to tell you right now, probably 95% of all clients we deal with that suffer an attack, they did not have multi-factor authentication. So
Rob said it, you guys. Send this to your CEOs and boards.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Rachel. It can be bypassed, but you know what? Most threat actors are not going to do that. They're going to move on to the easy targets.
Right. Because they time is money for them too, right? They're not going to. Yeah. If you're a smaller company that has MFA enabled for everyone, they're going to. The chances are more likely that they're going to overlook you and move on because you're not low-hanging fruit anymore. It's just obvious. I mean, it'd be obvious to me too, right? I'm not going to work harder to crack a company that may not pay out as much as the big company over there who's, board and decision makers were like, MFA, we don't need that. That sounds real fussy. And I don't like extra steps to getting into my email. That sounds awful.
It's inconvenient.
Like, it's two extra things. Like maybe you got to push there's options, all kinds of options available for MFA. And a lot of them will look into your.
I'll tell you right now, Rachel, I'm going to tell you most of everything that I have logins for, like my banks and I enable MFA on all of them. I really do. Not just, like my VPN into the network. No, all my accounts. If two-factor is available, absolutely.
Yeah. You know what I don't like is that they make it hard to find it. It's not an obvious option. I think it should be front and center when you sign up for any account. I don't care what it is. Social media, Clubhouse, whatever. I don't care. If I am creating an Airbnb login, I want multi-factor to be available. Thank you very much. And it should be front and center. But usually you have to go down into these applications, go into the settings, and then click in security and privacy settings, and then find it, and then hit the little button. Like, that's too much. It should be that front option. Like whenever this is my name that I'm going to give you and my blood type and my email address that you'll spam until the day I die and probably after that. The switch for MFA to be turned on should be right there before, when you submit your info. Yes, I want to do MFA automatically.
Well, and then you get things like, let's see, how do I say this without getting in trouble? When you have, I don't know, if like a major phone company might be breached or something like that, and what they offer for remediation, if that service doesn't even offer it MFA, it's kind of like, what? Are you serious? Just saying.
Yep. No, totally agree. I mean, MFA, that's the first recommendation always.
Look at that. Every one of you hanging out here today is now a digital forensics expert. If you go back to your decision makers and go, we should turn on multi-factor authentication, and here's a couple of reasons as to why. Good job.
So yes, so we recommend MFA on email. We recommend MFA on VPNs. We recommend MFA for any admins that sign into servers. So absolutely, it's essential.
Yeah, definitely. Look at that.
I have this vision of this the link to this conversation from YouTube going out to folks all over the place. See?
Told you. Yes, if anybody wants Rob or Rachel or Will to come talk to any members of your organization, we'd be happy to do so. And if you don't want to see my mug, I've got friends. We have options. Okay. Lots of options.
Speaking of which, coming up pretty soon, we're going to have an anniversary event.
We are going to have an anniversary event. I'm so excited. Yes, that's going to be October the 29th. Brett definitely put me under some pressure yesterday. Brett Scott made a big post on LinkedIn about how excited he was, and then did not tell people that in-person attendance was not necessarily going to be something we wanted to, it's for the students. But we're doing a live stream for everybody still.
Right.
So the 1 year anniversary is going to be, we're going to have the event on October the 29th. We are coming to PIMA Community College. You guys, I've never met Will in person. I have no idea. He could be 5'1". This is going to be so awkward. I'm like 6 foot tall and built like a linebacker. For those of you who finally met me in person at GERCon last week, it's legit. I'm not lying to you. I am 6 foot tall and built like a linebacker. True story.
So Rachel.
Yeah.
I'm reading a comment by Jonathan Kimmett. He's got an absolutely excellent point here. Cyber insurance. Truly, I mean, you're hitting it dead on. Cyber insurance, cyber companies are now requiring so much more from clients before they'll even insure them. So absolutely great point there, Jonathan. I really like that.
It is a good point. And a lot of us in the cybersecurity community, especially, I bet you, Rob, you felt the same way. Whenever you saw cybersecurity insurance start like being a thing, right? You're like, so what are the requirements for an institution to be insured? And they were like, got a network?
Yeah. It's definitely changing now. They're looking at, having EDR solutions. They're looking at like MSS solutions for companies. So they're really starting to require a lot more. And companies are actually, I think they're starting to take notice. But again, we still deal with, like you said, the low-hanging fruit. I mean, we still deal with a lot of companies that have cyber policies where we're seeing such a tremendous lack of security on the network. So I think things are changing, though.
Do we have any numbers around the average breach? Can anybody go find out the cost of that? The average breach, I want to see like numbers on how much, if we're paying ransom, right? We're still doing that. How much it was for the ransom on average, and how much it was to have experts and extended, contractors come in to help you clean up that mess. And then I want you to weigh that cost against what if we had just went ahead and reduced some of our risk and our attack surface by doing basic things.
Well, you also have to take into account the loss in revenue that the business suffers as well.
Right.
So yeah, it's not just. Yeah, I mean, it can take weeks for larger companies to rebuild. It really can. I mean, we're talking a lot of work.
Oh, look, Bert says 4 million. Anybody contest that? I'm going to go with Bert. 65 to start. Chip says $65,000 to start. That's hard. Those are hard numbers, guys.
Yeah.
Wow. So what? I mean, I lost what I was going to.
The whole concept of a business impact analysis, right?
Yes.
You need to go through and find out what that cost is going to be for not taking the steps.
Well, you also have to take into account the data that's being accessed. Now you have to take into account notifications to people about the loss of information. And then you got to start dealing with where are the people located. People located in California require different notifications than people in North Carolina. So, so now you're talking about, I really need outside counsel to start helping with this. So, I mean, it really just opens up everything required, in a breach.
Yeah, it does. It really does. And I mean, and think like, downtime and losses of revenue. I mean, not just that, right? Like you think, oh, well, that's the organization that it affects and its employees and maybe some of its customers. To quantify that on exactly how that may pertain to you as the general public, right? Like not just the cybersecurity professionals that are here, but general public, right? So mom, dad, grandma, kids, everybody else. Colonial Pipeline did not have anything happen to their supply chain other than they couldn't process payment. Unless somebody knows something different. That's what I know. That's what I read. That's what I saw. It was their payment system. And then panic buying started, right? And then raised cost for fuel all the way across the board, especially here in the lower South. It was not fun. That was not fun. And all they did was shut down the payment system, how they processed payments. That was it. You guys couldn't do work and not get what? Like that was hard. That was hard. And it didn't just affect, the pipeline. It affected the people that are consumers of the pipeline. So that's like everybody, everybody got, I mean, it was minor inconvenience for some people, and some people in other parts of the country didn't feel anything, but you knew about it and it hurt your feelings a little. Wouldn't it be nice if that didn't happen less often? That would be great. Thanks.
Maggie brought up a real good statement question, and forgive me, Maggie, there's no way I'm going to try to pronounce your last name.
She's a channel enthusiast, Will. That's
how often do people within the company agree on how to react? How many have a plan in place?
It's that IR plan. Yeah.
Right. And how often do you see that, Rob, causing major issues?
Well, how often do I actually see an IR plan?
Okay.
Honestly, that's pretty rare. Most places, I mean, the larger companies, with a more defined network and everything, yeah, they do have IR plans. Still doesn't negate what's happened. It's not preventing the breach, but it does help them, in figuring out what to do. It provides step-by-step instructions. A lot of times there's agreements already in place with certain companies that if a breach does happen, that company is already engaged. They have them on retainer. So, but honestly, the medium and smaller size companies that we deal with a lot, they don't have IR plans. And that's a tremendous problem. So, it's one thing that we help them get their networks, recover their networks and everything, but then it's also more of an advisory and a proactive type of approach to help them develop that type of plan.
Yeah, definitely.
That's awesome.
Critical.
Yeah, there's lots of work. Do what, Will?
Critical and a lot of work.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you gotta have, right? What happens if traditionally your building caught on fire? How many people know the incident response plans for, oh no, the building's on fire? One, it's posted everywhere. Don't take the elevator, you dip. Take the stairs, right? We all know it. And or like, I mean, I don't know if this happened in the rest of the country. Probably depends on what sort of natural disasters happen in your area. But I remember being a very small kid in central Indiana and going through tornado drills. Why aren't we putting kids through cybersecurity drills? Why not? They're all on it. Everybody's got a book, tablet, something.
Not
Well,
just
how
that.
hard?
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, how hard is it to test that plan regularly? Even tabletop tests, do walkthroughs. I mean, yeah, absolutely. That's something that we do quite often. Is a lot of companies do have us help them with tabletop tests and walking through. And one of the requirements we always have is there has to be participation by all levels at the company.
Yeah, we do that here at PIMA with students with the help of Tech Data. Walk through. We've got those scenarios and kind of turn it into a Dungeons and Dragons game, right? But and invaluable learning exercise for students. So we have to help prepare folks that will go out into the industry and help be aware of these problems to try to help fix these problems. That all falls into plan. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It does.
So Will, I just want to go ahead and throw this out there for you, since you deal with a lot of students. For anybody that's on this call, I am absolutely open and available. If anybody ever wants to bounce something off me, I am more than willing to give you my take on things. I'm always willing to help. I wouldn't be where I am if somebody hadn't helped me. So I like to pay it forward, so to speak. And if anybody ever needs anything, please let me know.
We'll take you up on that, sir.
That goes same for anybody here at SecureNation, as well as Rob with Kivu Consulting, and obviously Will with PIMA Community College, right? Like last week we met, or not last week because I was at GERCON. The week before that, we met the PCC super users group. So if anybody wants to join their Discord, wink, wink, Rob. I don't know how good you are with Discord, but always something to learn. Anyway, if you want to join theirs, I have a handy link, or Will does too. Feel free to reach out to any of us here on LinkedIn to connect. I think I finally hit that wall where I don't have the connect button as a parent anymore. It's a follow button now. But anyway, if you go to the three little dots, drop down menu, there's a connect option at the bottom. Always happy to help or answer any questions. Always. So glad that everybody was able to come and hang out in the chat. We had some great discussion running along the side here. It was awesome.
Oh, heck yeah.
I don't think I've ever but I just had to stop looking at the LinkedIn halfway through because I couldn't keep up with what we were actually talking about. Whoa, this is a lot of stuff. We are going to be doing the live stream again next week. So that's going to be with a friend and fellow volunteer from the Innocent Lives Foundation, Jake Satcher, who is also an information security professional. We're going to be discussing some of the ways to not only, right, because everybody always talks about how to break in. They always talk about how to break into cyber, break in, but nobody ever says anything about the roadmap after. And that came after a couple of LinkedIn comments that got swapped back and forth earlier this week between me and another pal, where we were discussing, nobody ever says once you're in, what happens now? What do you do after that? So we're going to kind of go over some of those things as well. And plus you guys get a chance to meet Jake. He's awesome. He's just a fantastic friend and a fierce ally when it comes to cybersecurity and anything infosec related. Thanks again so much, Rob, for coming and hanging out with us. If anybody would like to, I don't know, check out some more of the stuff that Kivu Consulting can offer, reach out to me. Don't hesitate, or save it for later. I don't know, whatever you want to do. It's always free to have a discussion. Okay. Always. And they're happy to do it. That's why we partner with them. It's because we love them and their ability to chat with anybody. You guys, I'm going to let you guys have some closing statements. Will, did you have any closing statements?
I just really appreciate your perspective, Rob. I mean, it really helps. And, it's those things that we need to really keep in mind, prepare for, keep aware of, and it's stuff that we have to embed in the education for all those professionals as they start heading out. Right on target. Thank you.
Yeah. And one of the things that people were pointing out in the chat, we commonly have to do when we consult with companies. A lot of times, we have to tell you what you need. And a lot of companies don't realize what they need until we come in and look at it and tell. I mean, so these guys are absolutely right. When you need to tell your C levels, we need yeah, you need to tell your people what they need. So don't be shy. Let them know, what's needed to be done. But guys, I've really enjoyed this. Thank you very much for letting me come. I've enjoyed it tremendously. If you ever need somebody else again and you don't mind my humming and I'd be happy to be here again anytime. So thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Of course. And we'll see everybody next week. Hopefully. You guys have a great weekend. And I'm going to repeat some of the sentiments in the chat. I hope wonderful weather is coming your way this weekend. I know it finally is here in South Louisiana. It was only 60 degrees this morning whenever I woke up instead of 95. So that was lovely. Anyway, you guys be well. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.